Nice timing, Grandpa Rick.
So, what do you want to do today? Eat some snacks and maybe let me kiss you finally? You know, with my mouth and stuff?
We're about to learn that all of these people are tiny parts of Morty's consciousness. So, I don't know what's sadder, that some small part of Morty wants to kiss himself, or that another part is totally not into it.
So, are you going to explain to us what the sin is here? Cause so far, you haven't said anything that's actually sinful. You've just pointed out something about a character that's really sad, which isn't a sin.
You guys keep thinking I'm a religious leader. You're all my grandson, your name is Morty, you're stuck in a video game, and I'm here to get you out.
Look, this is a pretty tough sell, but Rick Roy's tactics certainly aren't doing him any favors. If he wants to make sure this doesn't look like an organized religion, why use a flyer that clearly gives the impression he's running for political office?
How do you propose he does it? Rick is simply spreading the word and simultaneously hammering home the point that he's not a religious leader. What else do you want? I mean, the flyers don't say anything about politics or religion, so your claim that they give that impression is kinda total bullshit.
Power went out, the game restarted, and your identity has been splintered into all the non-player characters.
Well, then that seems like a pretty big engineering flaw, no? I mean, when the Pirates of the Caribbean breaks down, it's not like the pirates eat the tourists. Is a joke I just totally made up myself.
Ignoring the pirate joke, you're still not pointing out any real sins. The fact that the video game has engineering flaws is not a flaw of the episode, seeing as real-life games almost always have some kind of bug, glitch, or other weird thing about them.
Every single one of you is 1/5 billionth of Morty. All of you, collectively, are Morty.
But how are they even functioning if they're only 1/5 billionths of Morty's consciousness? I use at least 10% of my brain, and yesterday I totally forgot the word for that thing you do when you thrust your hips backwards and forwards and try to stay inside of a moving circular void. Hula hooping, you know, for kids.
Discount Jeremy makes a cringy sexual joke that isn't funny cliche. Also, Morty's consciousness being split so much might give you the impression that the NPCs wouldn't be able to function, as you've stated, but if you were to actually pay attention and do some of your own thinking, you'd realize that the video game itself is still running, causing the NPCs to function. In other words, Morty's split consciousness is only able to function because it's directly connected to the game.
Do you understand time dilation? I'm losing a month a second out here.
So what happens to Roy while you're out here? Does he go on autopilot? Does he disappear? Because by the end of this conversation, you'll have been gone for almost 2 full years. And if you really want people to buy in, you should be shooting for 3 days away, max.
It doesn't really matter what happens when Rick is out of the game because it has no effect on the plot, meaning that it wasn't drastic enough to do anything. Therefore, this isn't a sin.
Do a Die Hard.
What does that mean?
Sneak around, use air vents. You've never seen Die Hard?
Hey, doing a Die Hard's way more than just sneaking around and hiding in air vents. You could dedicate a whole episode to doing a Die Hard if you wanted to, but I suppose that might come off as an unimaginative excuse to include a lot of Die Hard references, so I guess you'd have to balance it with an overly metaphorical A-plot, questioning our perception of reality against our many internal narratives, and that just seems like a lot of mixed messages.
What does overly metaphorical even mean? How can something be using a metaphor too much? That's just an arbitrary way for him to force us in out of the episode. Also, he called Summer's plotline unimaginative because it's basically a Die Hard parody, so let me pose this question. How can a YouTube channel that claims to be a parody not realize when a TV show is doing a parody?
Melting an entire stick of Morty butter to cook only 2 eggs.
Pointing things out on the screen to get only one unnecessary sin.
If this is a game about Roy, why is it currently focusing on her walking down the street? Shouldn't be wherever Roy is right now? And why does it look like it's happening in real time? And yes, I know the game is broken, but you know what? You're broken.
He says one possible reason for the thing he pointed out, and then still sins it anyway. Satire, ladies and gentlemen. That's totally what this is, even though it's actually not, by definition. Satire. Oh, and comedy.
This Don't Touch Me game reminds me of a game I played this one time in an arcade called Flaming Finger.
Skip.
We exchange tokens for digital currency. We don't have a safe.
Correction. What you don't have is a head.
Discount Mr. Takagi makes a great point. What are the terrorists doing here if there's no currency to actually steal? What are they even heisting?
So, do you think that the robbers already knew there was no physical currency here, even though they were literally just asking the manager where to find the physical currency, implying that they didn't know? Are you pretending to be dumb to get sins, or are you actually dumb?
Hello, my name is Morty. I'm a 14-year-old boy in a video game.
Still better than most religious music, except for the Benedictine monks of Santo Domingo de Silos. Those dudes f***ing rule.
Unfunny joke is unfunny.
Coming through the ceiling when you've already driven a tank through the fireplace.
Pointing things out on the screen when you've already run that trope into the ground.
Stealing your logo from Star Trek. I'd say this was a nod to Space Force doing the same thing, but I'm not sure 1/5 billionths of Morty's brain would be quite that meta.
Discount Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the episode cliche.
Sneak around, call in some vents, do a Die Hard.
Imitating Die Hard this well without ever having seen Die Hard.
Pointing things out on the screen this doggedly without paying attention to the episode.
Because they killed him, and it wasn't difficult.
Getting so angry you accidentally go full Gungan.
Discount Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the episode cliche.
Every sentient civilization across the galaxy eventually develops the same myth.
Johns, Bobby, are we supposed to believe that despite every single sentient species having their own version of Die Hard, there isn't a single iteration that better suits this specific situation? Is the show seriously saying that no one in the galaxy has come up with Die Hard in an arcade?
Yes.
The difference being that cultures like mine are aware of its importance.
Fine, but did they care enough to make 2 killer sequels and then wait over a decade to make another one about hackers and shit, and then wait a further 6 years to make another one that was basically nothing like the others and essentially lost everything that was fun about the original? Did they? Did they live free until it was a good day to die hard? Did they?
And I care why? Seriously, what was the point of all that? I'm not mad, Aaron. I'm just disappointed.
Talkie Die Hard, motherf.
We all have that friend that mangles movie quotes. This sin is for them.
Sinning something that happens in the real world when you're supposed to be sinning a TV show? That's dumb.
The world is united because the world is one 14-year-old boy.
United? The only thing that would unite a world of 14-year-old boys is the mutual agreement that no sock could be confidently used for its intended purpose.
You disgust me.
Couldn't find it, so I'm standing in the general area with the microphone.
Is exactly how my sex tapes get made?
Discount Jeremy makes a cringy sex tape joke that isn't funny cliche.
That will force the game to reset. But first, it'll kick us out, which Morty should survive. I mean, whatever amount of Morty we have on board.
This is the most yada pile of convenience in the episode. Not just that you can force a reset, but that the reset will kick out Morty, and the reset won't harm Morty. It's almost like the creators of this game were in cahoots with the writers of Rick and Morty.
How is this shit convenient? I'm kinda getting tired of them using that word over and over without actually knowing what it means. I mean, it's not unrealistic to think that resetting the game in which Morty is stuck would kick him out. Think about it. When you're playing a game and you reset it, does it typically keep you in the game? Are you typically able to keep playing during the reset? Of course not. This shit isn't convenient at all.
Also, why does it only kick out the Morty minions that are on the ship? Why would a forced glitch have arbitrary plot tension rules?
It's adorable, and by adorable I mean stupid and annoying, how he mentions the glitch being forced, but still can't understand that Rick created the means by which he and Morty are leaving the game. That's why they have to be on the ship when it takes off, because Rick created it as a means of escaping.
A mom in a video game, occupied by a tiny fraction of yourself. A fraction of yourself which is now dead forever, and fractions add up.
Okay, so when a piece of Morty dies, they die for good? But Rick will eventually spend decades in here. So if those fractions add up, why isn't Rick in more of a hurry? If this simulation is anything like the real world, 60 million fractions of Morty are dying every year from natural causes, sloth attacks, and staple gun pranks. All of which means that Rick only has maybe 83 years before there are no fractions of Morty left to save. Unless, of course, the fractions that die are saved by the game and recycled into the babies that the other fractions of Morty are making. Putting aside the fact that we don't even have a word for what type of cest that is, it also means that Rick shouldn't be worrying about losing fractions of Morty at all.
Well, that should be a tip-off that that's not how it works then. As for the part about Rick needing to work faster, he was trying, you dumbass. What did you think this entire episode was about? He was doing everything he could to gather the Morty fractions as quickly as possible. It's baffling to me how you can't understand these very simple concepts.
So for some inexplicable reason, at least 2 other fractions of Morty's subconscious believe they have monocular vision.
What the hell? Did I hear him right? Is he thinking of a different type of vision? Monocular vision is when you only rely on one eye to see, and these guys are clearly looking through the glass with both of their eyes. What the hell is this sin?
I'm going to wander the arcade unarmed, and when she comes across me, I'll pretend to be a hostage.
If Johns has studied Die Hard so much, wouldn't it make more sense to improve upon the mistakes made in the movie rather than repeat them and fall for the same tricks? Hook, line, and sinker?
Isn't that kind of the point though? He knows all the mistakes that were made in the movie, but then still makes those same mistakes himself. You're literally sinning a parody for being a parody.
Also, I'm tempted to sin Summer for ruining this fancy suit, but I'm sure Johns has too.
Can't just keep yelling Die Hard.
I mean, you're basically doing the same thing, as is this episode. There's a lot of hypocrisy going around here. Don't throw bare feet in glass houses. Or whatever.
Sinning something for being hypocritical is hypocritical in and of itself. So here's a sin for your hypocritical hypocrisy, you hypocritical hypocrite.
He spent 50 years 50 years! It's what, a couple hours to him?
Well, since he said that every month is a second, 50 years would be 10 minutes, not 2 hours, and the President of the United States should know this.
And how would he know that? The President is a fraction of Morty's consciousness, not Rick's, so it makes perfect sense that he wouldn't know.
I can finally get out of these clothes. I don't have nearly enough pockets.
Complaining to a woman about how you don't have enough pockets.
Pointing things out on the screen.
You have to tell us you love us. I mean, at this point, even if he said it, what's with the pause?
Rick is a dick for no reason, even though his dickishness will short-circuit his own plans cliché.
That's not a cliche, my man. Go get yourself a dictionary.
Where the hell were these guys a few minutes ago? Let me guess, they're all sitting on a beach earning 20%?
Unfunny joke is unfunny.
Gotta help her. You know what? Wherever she is, I'm sure she's doing fine without your help.
Oof, jinx any...
Trying to make me believe that Rick believes in me believing that Rick believes in jinxes.
A whole bunch of bullshit.
You don't have to not do things that were done in Die Hard. You can shoot the glass. Shoot the glass.
Scene does not contain John saying this in their native tongue and then repeating it in English for clarity.
Look, I've never actually seen Die Hard, so I don't know for sure if that's what this scene is referring to, but either way, it's not legitimate criticism, it's not funny, and it's not satirical, so the only thing it really is stupid.
Wait. Spaceship, and then what? Then we help your sister do her Die Hard.
But how in the hell are they able to hear this in real time? This game is happening so fast it should sound like this.
Didn't you mention the fact that the game is broken earlier? Yeah, you really should have gone back through your script before finalizing this video.
His name is Rick, and we have no way of knowing if your generation is actually part of Morty.
Do you really have a way of knowing anything? Like, for instance, how do you know that there aren't parts of Morty in things other than human NPCs? Maybe dogs have some Morty in them. Maybe rocks with googly eyes. I've seen everything everywhere all at once. I know how this shit works.
They don't know any of that for sure, but that's still not a sin because this is Morty we're talking about. He doesn't typically think things like this through, so you're sinning a character for being himself.
Okay, this is a little awkward, but the time dilation has given me a chance to reflect.
Sincere Rick is the least convincing Rick, but since we're in time dilation, I have to be careful how I do this, because
Skip.
I'm not going to presume to know how this alien's anatomy works, but I would think it's safe to assume that this arm should at least be slightly less functional while carrying this laser hole around.
Since you admitted that you don't know anything about this alien species' anatomy, I'm gonna sin you for not thinking about the possibility of adrenaline, or something similar, maybe even stronger, that could potentially offset the pain of a bullet wound.
You left your book in the bathroom. I read it while I took a
Reading on the toilet, aka committing a hemorrhoidian slip.
Pointing things out on the screen.
He's fine. Got them all out. Every last piece.
Another open-ended Rick and Morty ending. I'm dubbing these co-text closings because the writers know they might want to pull stuff from the episode out again later, so they make sure to always leave a hanging thread.
Which is a sin because... Oh, it's not? Then why did you bother mentioning it?